So I had to understand the anatomy of pressure for me and understand what my greatest weaknesses were and where they've come from.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Don't Change Much podcast. This one is titled Mental Health is a Team Game. Yeah, you've got a great basis of knowledge, I guess, of how the brain works, and you're continuing to try to learn about it. So I guess it's fair to say that your almost lifelong desire to learn how the brain works really helped you here because you understood how to compete against these anxious feelings.
Yeah, you are competing against them. I like that. I like that terminology because I feel it's that type of terminology that drives people forward, like getting into competition with the negative aspects of life. You know, that's all aspects, knowing that we all have inherent personalities, and those personalities are very persevering. I mean, they're difficult to shift, and all of us have that shadow that lurks underneath is there ready to sprout up at any time, and you're competing with that shadow, those elements of your personality that are born out of your childhood scripting, and periods like COVID will try and reveal themselves and take hold of you. So I think for all of us, we're in competition with, you know, that negative side of human nature, and competing against it is a great way of terming that. I mean, that's for me, that's right up my alley, to beat that negative side and beat the depression and beat the anxiety. You know, it's a great way to look at it.
You said childhood scripting, so let's just go back a little bit, and maybe you could tell the listeners why you first got interested in learning about the brain, because from what I read, it didn't really come from a positive experience.
No, I think on the journey, particularly through my coaching in New Zealand, I was exposed to some great influences, but also their coaching journey opened up, young Olympic coaches to try and understand themselves before trying to understand others. It was a real interesting insight as I started to push through my 30s, and I could sense, some of my greatest strengths were also greatest weaknesses. This work ethic, which, would push everything else out of my life, this intense focus on getting this thing done, was hurting us in other areas, whether it was my relationships with colleagues, with friends, with my family. Your 360-degree feedback's pretty interesting when you become that sort of intense around getting something done, and then trying to understand that, unpacking it. It's like they just a new onion layer sort of unfolded once I took interest in trying to understand me. And the more older I've got, I'm starting to understand more the way I am. What my triggers are, why I react certain ways, how that's deeply rooted to my childhood. And I'd have to say, huge influencer was Dr. Kerry Evans. Kerry worked with us in the preparation for the Olympics 2012, but I've been working with him since 2010, not in a clinical way, more that he was supporting me on my coaching journey and working with teams, but he opened my eyes to, at the end of the day, a healthy mind is going to be key to everything. Controlling your attention is the key to everything. Performing under pressure is the key to everything. So I had to understand the anatomy of pressure for me, and understand what my greatest weaknesses were and where they've come from. And he opened the door to some good insights into, growing up, I guess, in a family where you've got 2 teenage parents who both work, 3 kids living in council estates in the UK, then, living in an environment where parents divorce young, etc., etc. There's a lot of things in your external world that have impacted your internal being, and understanding how they play out, particularly under pressure and stress, has been important for me.
We'd like to thank you so much for listening, and a big thanks to all of you who have already followed us wherever you get your podcasts. If you haven't yet, hit that follow button on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any of our upcoming guests or episodes. For more helpful tips on improving your mental and physical health, please visit menshealthfoundation.ca and don'tchangemuch.ca. Thanks again.